Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of Piano TV. I am Alicia, your host, and when I was going back through the many videos that we've made, I think this one we have labeled as 409, as in it's the 409th video we've done. I'm not sure if that number is like 100% accurate, but yeah, that's what I have written down on my notes. I realized that I haven't done any videos about swing rhythm. I've done a lot of I've done a video on 8th note, 16th note, stuff like that, but not specifically on swing rhythm. And I want to make a note too that this is the same thing as shuffle rhythm. There are technical differences, but in my classroom, I basically just refer to it as swing rhythm. So throughout the episode, I will be referring to it as swing rhythm. It's shuffle rhythm. They're kind of the same thing. Yeah, so not going to get too technical on that, but that's what we're going to be talking about today. How to transform your straight 8th notes into swing, kind of bluesy, rock and roll-y style 8th notes, and why you'd even want to do that in the first place. This is going to be like a short, tight, highly focused video, and I find that some people really intuitively grasp this rhythm and have an easy time with it. Other people really have to think about it and struggle through it a little bit before they get the hang of it. So if you fall into the latter category, this video is for you. Hopefully it'll give you a few new things to try. Let's get started. Before we get into swinging the 8th notes, you need to first understand how to play and count regular, straight, boring old 8th notes. Here's a little excerpt on the screen from Minuet in G by Petzold. So with 8th notes, we would count with ands. So basically, since each 8th note gets half a beat, we need to come up with a metric to measure the half beat, so like the ands. So the first bar would be 1, because this quarter note gets a whole beat, and then we'd have 2 and 3 and then we'd have 1, 2, 3. So when you're playing that, you go 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3. So just to give you a little bit of refresher on how you count 8th notes, and they sound completely even. When we're playing with a quarter note beat, da, dum, dum, it should be steady like a clock. And we want the same thing with our straight 8th notes. We want them to be like a steady but faster clock. The goal with regular 8th notes is to keep them completely even like a clock, kind of like I just said. So just how, I'm going to put on a metronome just to give you a concrete example. It's at 120. If you're playing a quarter note pattern, you want the quarter notes to completely sync up with that. If you're doing 8th notes, they should be just as tight and just as even, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You could still put a metronome against those notes I'm doing because they're steady enough. It would just be like a much faster pace. They would be like 240 instead of 120. Does that kind of make sense? So hopefully we're all on the same page on how to play like a really straight rhythm. But swing 8th notes throws that evenness out the window. There is a regularity to swing rhythm, but it's just not like clock straight. So that's why it's called swing, not straight. What swing rhythm does is follow a long, short pattern. So you can kind of see this illustrated on the screen where the first beat is long and then the second beat is short. So we go long, short, etc. So basically, it's like the first beat has maybe just like the slightest accent and is held a little longer, and then the second beat, which would fall on the and. So if you're counting 1, and 2 and 3, the and beats are going to be shorter, and then the number beats like 1, 2, 3 are going to be longer. So I'm going to play this rhythm on the piano so you can get it in your ear, and then we'll discuss it more in depth. One way I get my students to practice this is to turn on the metronome and start by clapping a steady 8th note rhythm. I'm actually going to make it a little bit slower, so maybe we'll do like 100. And you know what? It might be easier if we just do like a standard shuffle beat. Let me see if I can find one, maybe like soft, let's do swing rock. Okay, so we'll put it to 100. Oh, that's a little fancy. But anyway, if you're clapping 8th notes, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and right now I'm clapping a straight rhythm. So that's what I'll get them to do. Actually, that still seems a little bit fast to me. So let's bump this down to 80. So here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then once you can clap along the straight beat, switch it to the swing rhythm. So 1 and 2 and it says swing rock, but that totally doesn't work as a swing. Let me see if I can find one that actually works. All right, I got a swing ballad here. Here we got it 80. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's actually really hard to clap a straight eighth note rhythm to a swing beat. So we're gonna do our eighth notes again. Remember that pattern, the long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. And I actually have my students physically say that at first because I find it's a helpful trigger. So we're gonna start on 1, go. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, da, 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 da. And once you're hearing the long, short rhythm, you can stop saying it out loud physically and just simply focus on clapping or even pressing any note on the keyboard with this rhythm, like long, short, long, short, long, short. So hopefully you're hearing that. Now, one troubleshooting thing. Be careful that your long beat doesn't get too long. Now, this is a really common trap that adults tend to fall into, and kids too, is to hold that note for the duration of, say, like 3/16 notes. So instead of da, 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 you get da, 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 da. It's really abbreviated sounding. So it's almost like you're doing 3/16, like 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4. You're doing like 3/16 notes and then a final 16th note at the end. So that's not swing rhythm, just a little thing to warn you about. One way to get a feel for this is to actually physically say the word triplet in 3 syllables, like triplet, along with, let's do a metronome this time instead of the drum track so you can really hear it. So here's our 80. Triplet, 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 triplet. Your triplet should fit 3 beats to 1, 3 beats to 1 beat. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're going triplet, 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 triplet. And you'll notice it's super steady. So once you're able to say triplet along with the beats, you can press the note on the keyboard like I was doing. And then as a next step, delete the pull. So if you're saying tri-pull-et, delete pull. And instead just say the tri-et, which obviously doesn't really sound right. But if you're not saying it out loud and playing it on the piano, it'll make more sense. So I'm going to slow it down to demonstrate more easily. So 60... triplet, 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 triplet. You notice I'm on the piano, I'm not playing the pull. I'm still saying triplet because it helps me keep track, but I'm kind of like holding for triple and then et gets the final press. Triplet, 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 triplet. You see? And then that ends up being swing rhythm. So some of my students do kind of need to reverse engineer it like this, and that's totally fine. I'm hoping that that'll be helpful to you. And again, if you feel like you really have to think about it a lot when you're learning it, that's okay. That's normal. And it will eventually become more natural. Now, if you don't like saying triplet, which is fair, you could say another 3-syllable word like blueberry. You go blueberry, blue. Oh, I went too fast. Blueberry, 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 and then blueberry, 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 blueberry. You see how we get our swing rhythm by doing that. So when do we use swing rhythm? Well, genres that often use swing rhythm are going to be rock, jazz, and blues. So I have up on the screen here an easy example by Christopher Norton. So in this bluesy piece, you'll notice that the left hand is based on a rocking octaves pattern. It's nice and steady. But since it's blues, we don't actually want to play it with that straight eighth note rhythm. We want to play it with the shuffle. So I'll show you how it's done on the keyboard. All right, so here's how it's done on the piano. Long, short, 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 long. You'll notice that the main beat, so beat number 1 is always long, and then the in-between and beat, which is played with my thumb, long, short, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we always have the first beat is long, and then the and beat is short. So once you have the hang of the left hand, you can go in and make the right hand match what the left hand's doing. So being able to play 2 hands at once with swing rhythm takes a little bit of work, but it's useful to have a piece like this where the left hand is maintaining that swing rhythm. It's almost acting like your little swing metronome. My sight reading's not great, so I'll play it a little slow. So you notice notice how my left hand's keeping this rhythm, and then wherever my eighth notes fall, they just kind of like match. Ba da 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 da. So we have yeah. So it just kind of it fits in. So when you're learning a piece with swing rhythm, focus on whichever hand is keeping the beat, and then try to match the other hand to that. Usually it's the left hand that's keeping the beat. One of the most challenging aspects of playing with swing eighth notes is working with the rests like this. This is where I see people really get thrown off. So the main thing to remember is this. If you're playing a piece in 4/4 time, like what we're looking at right now, then each of these 4 beats is going to follow a swing rhythm. So you want to think about like the underlying rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of forget about what you see with the eighth notes. It's always going to be that first beat is longer, that second beat is longer, the third beat is longer. Even if the first beat happens to fall on a rest, like here, that is going to be in swing rhythm the longer of the 2 beats. And the and beat is going to be shorter. So if you were to, and again, I'll play this on the keyboard, but if I were to tap this out, I'd have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. You hear how that 1 and 2, and then our and was nice and short again. So again, I'll show you on the piano, but basically this is the law of our swing rhythm. If the first eighth note you see falls on an and, you do not play that one long. And this is what people always want to do. They see a rest and then an eighth note, and then they immediately assume the first eighth note they see is going to be like held long. But that totally distorts the rhythm. That's not how it works. So again, follow the underlying rhythm. So you're always going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And your eighth notes should always adhere to that as opposed to the other way around. Okay, so the important thing here is I'm going to keep a nice steady pulse in my head. If I'm just playing one hand, I'll go dun, da, 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 da. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... So one thing that might help some of you is I'm going to get that swing rhythm going back on. Bun, da, 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 da. We'll just go at 95. So hopefully you guys can hear that just fine. So I find putting on a shuffle rhythm and really make sure it is a shuffle or swing rhythm, otherwise it won't work. But I find it makes it easier to just hear those long, short patterns. I'll show you what I mean. Long, short, long, short, long, short. It just kind of fits. If you try to play this with a straight rhythm, it doesn't quite sink in as nicely. So I'm going to just play a little bit to see what happens. 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 1. You kind of heard how when we had that rest where I yelled 1, that's going to be long, and then we have our short and. So we have 1 and 2 and bum. Bum, bum. So I'm going to do it again. Ba, ba, da, 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 da. Rest and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Oh, I kind of missed it there. So we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 da 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 3 and 4. Bum. So again, hopefully, maybe for some of you this is going just a little bit fast, but I just want to illustrate how everything sounds, and then you can always come back and listen to things again as you work through them. Swing shuffle rhythm is so common in contemporary music that it's really worth acquainting yourself with it, because it's almost impossible to avoid unless you're really, really, really just like highly focused on the classical stuff. So something to try out and get used to. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you find that this is like a pretty big struggle for you, I just encourage you to keep at it, because the more you do it, it's like anything, the more you do it, it will eventually become natural. Now, I'm not a dancer, but you could liken it to learning how to do like a particular dance. I can't even, like a square dance. I just picked a random dance. I actually don't know how to do a square dance. I don't know how to do any dances. Confessional of the day. So, it might feel like really clumsy and awkward at first, but then eventually, in theory, you become good enough at the dance that you don't have to think it. You can just kind of like enjoy moving around the dance floor with your partner, as opposed to like fixating so much on the steps. And that's what I theorize learning swing rhythm would kind of be like. If you struggle with it at first, keep at it. Eventually the awkwardness will disappear and you'll start to get like an intuitive grasp of it. So hold out for that, keep at it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Slow. Oh. Let me do that again.